The Tampa Bay Buccaneers finally decided to make a bit of a coaching change. Now, this is kind of breaking news, if you want to call it this, but the Buccaneers have fired defensive line coach Jay Hayes. Now, Jay Hayes. You know, he had a group of guys who didn't do so well. Jay Hayes, he spent 13 seasons in Cincinnati, where he worked with Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap. This past season, it was not very good. The Bucs recorded 22 sacks, which was, I believe, the league worst. Not too sure. But all in all, it was kind of a down year for the Bucs defensive line. You had guys who performed at a decent level, or at least average or above. You could only chalk it up to really 3 guys. You had Robert Ayers, who still had like 2 sacks on the season. You had Clinton McDonald, and you had Gerald McCoy. Gerald McCoy having the most sacks on the team with 6. But all in all, this wasn't a good year for Jay Hayes. This comes a little bit after the 2017 season. Sorry about that. He was hired by Dirk Cutter when Dirk Cutter became the head coach. And it's really sad because, Jay Hayes was in Cincinnati for 13 years, and he made Geno Atkins a very good defensive lineman. He made Carlos Dunlap a very good defensive lineman. But you just kind of saw regression. You had Silver Cilia, who performed poorly. You had William Golston, who performed poorly. You had Ryan Russell, Frank Clark, who performed poorly. William Golston was injured in certain situations. Obviously, Noah Spence hasn't been healthy since we drafted him. You had Stevie Tukulavalu, who was injured. I probably didn't even say his last name right. I probably butchered it. But you had all of these, your starters were getting injured, and then it was proven that your depth couldn't even come close to matching anything that your starters were getting out. Chris Baker was undisciplined as well. That was another big problem. His defensive line was just kind of undisciplined in general to a certain degree. So it's kind of rough because, there was some things that Jay Hayes did do good. But it's hard. It's hard because the defensive lineman, some of the stuff that Jay Hayes pulled, a lot of the defensive linemen didn't like it. So it was just kind of hard. It was just kind of hard. A lot of regression. It's just kind of slowly got worse. Obviously, peaking at this year. Just not good. Defensive line just wasn't really doing that well under Jay Hayes. So we did finally get rid of him. It's a very interesting move. It's expected right now that Paul Spicer is going to be the replacement for Hayes. I know this isn't super breaking news, but it's still kind of interesting because the defensive line was a very sore spot for the Buccaneers this past season, and now that we're going to be getting a new coach, probably in Paul Spicer, I believe his name is. Now that we're getting a new defensive lineman coach in Paul Spicer, it'll be interesting to see who the Bucs get in free agency, which I'm going to be making a video about that soon, and who they draft and how the defensive line coach is going to be able to work with that, and how current guys are going to be able to be worked with. If you get Robert Ayers going, if you get Clinton McDonald and Gerald McCoy going, Chris Baker's probably going to be cut from the team. But if you get William Golston going again, that's honestly not a terrible defensive line, especially if you draft somebody like Bradley Chubb or sign somebody like a DeMarcus Lawrence or a somebody else. It'll be interesting, or Ezekiel Ansah, or Coney Ely. There's some interesting names out there for the defensive line, and whoever becomes our next defensive line coach will probably have a decent bit to work with. Now, Joe Cullen was the former defensive line coach before Jay Hayes, and he has spent the past 2 seasons in Baltimore. And honestly, we probably shouldn't have gotten rid of Joe Cullen because he's actually doing pretty well in Baltimore, and a lot of players liked him and stuff like that. Not a lot of players really preferred Jay Hayes to a certain degree. Now, he could be an option to return Joe Cullen. Joe Cullen could return. And if Joe Cullen comes back, I think that's huge. I think that'd be a very good move for them. I'd probably prefer him over Paul Spicer personally because I liked the stuff that he was doing whenever he was still with the team. It's going to be rough, though, because the Ravens probably aren't going to let him leave his contract. So the move is probably going to be Paul Spicer. I don't know how Paul Spicer is going to do. I don't think he has any experience coaching the defensive lineman. I think he's just been an assistant. So that'll kind of suck. But if we can get Joe Cullen back, please, like, if we have to buy out his contract, I don't care. Like, just get the man. You know, Joe Cullen's one of those guys who could eventually be promoted to like a defensive coordinator. You know, he's that good in my opinion. I think he would do pretty darn good. But I think this can be nothing but an upgrade. Again, it's kind of interesting. Jay Hayes was supposed to be this kind of really highly touted defensive line coach. He was supposed to be really good, and he just kind of didn't work out, and there was obvious regression, and guys were getting injured. You know, there's just kind of lack of being prepared. That kind of falls a little bit on Jay Hayes as well. You know, he's the defensive line coach. He specializes in defensive line. Defensive line was one of our weakest positions. So, you know, like, that is what it is. Paul Spicer will be interesting. I'm excited to see if he is the guy, to see what he can do. And Joe Cullen, if he comes back, that'd be my favorite move. I'd love to have Joe Cullen back. I think he's great. But if Paul Spicer's the guy, then all right, cool. Go Paul Spicer. Regardless of who it is, I hope that they can build a good relationship with the players and not do anything that'll make them too upset, because if your players start to mutiny against like your positional coaches, that's never a good sign. Hopefully this will mean good things for Gerald McCoy. I mean, Gerald McCoy is always good regardless, but hopefully this means good things for players like Clinton McDonald. Hopefully he re-signs with the team. Hopefully this means good things for Robert Ayers, for whatever defensive lineman we sign or draft. William Golston and Noah Spence, when they get healthy, hopefully they can you know, get back into good shape with the defensive line coach. You know, hopefully everybody can just kind of bounce back from this past season. Defensive line, hopefully they can bounce back, and with a new positional coach, you know, they have the opportunity to do that now. So let me know what you guys think about the Bucs defensive line. Obviously, do you guys like the move? Do you hate the move? I'm sure you guys like the move. I know this is kind of like a weird bit of news, but it's the off season. Like, I'm gonna be talking about obscure crap like this from time to time, you know, and it's breaking news, so it's going up late. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section below. I hope you guys all enjoyed, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. But until then, goodbye for now, guys.